Hey everyone, I'm Aaron and I am standing in front of the new Baby Lock Solaris sewing and embroidery machine. I want to show you some of the amazing new features of this machine. To start, I want to talk about the 13 inches to the right of the needle. There is also 5 inches of space between the bed of the machine to the top. That's huge. The advantage to this is that it gives you more space to change your needles and change your feet. That's awesome. Another feature is the bed of the machine has a nice matte finish. This reduces glare and it reduces the amount of scratching that your embroidery does to the bed of your machine. The embroidery module has a nice, safe, flat surface. On the Destiny 2, there were grooves running along the unit. That could allow things like pins to fall into your embroidery module if you were sewing with the embroidery module on. The grooves for the embroidery arm are now in the front and the back of the unit. That's genius. Now, let's talk about the stitch plate. On the Destiny 2, we had to undo the 2 stitch plate screws. Now, if we want to take the stitch plate off, all we have to do is pull this little button and the stitch plate pops right off. Now that's great because now we can easily clean inside our machine, put our stitch plate back on, and just clip it back down into place. Next we have our new thread stand. This magnetizes to the lid of the machine. It comes off and it collapses right down flat for easy storage. Now you'll notice here that the lid is laid back. So there's the machine with the lid shut. And when we want to open it, we just open it up. It lays back. No more taking the lid off and finding a home for it. It stays with the machine. Plus, like I said earlier, the thread stand magnetizes to the lid. The threading in the machine is still as easy as can be. We still have that amazing never miss needle threader. We also have new bobbin winding settings for the machine. Now, I want to draw your attention to our Baby Lock website. If you want to find any of the specifications to any of our machines, all you have to do is go to the Baby Lock website, babylock.com, and our site is also mobile friendly. So right now I'm on the site and I want to tell you about the bobbin winding settings for the machine. The site tells me the machine has a quick set independent winding system with 4 adjustable speed settings and 5 variable bobbin filling settings. That's a very nice feature because a lot of times when we're embroidering, maybe we're using like colors in the bobbin and on the top thread. We don't need very much thread at all for our bobbin. So to be able to wind only a little bit of bobbin, that's great. Now let's talk about the sewing features of the machine. The machine comes with a dual purpose stylus. One end has the stylus and the other end we use to work with our projector. I can touch sewing and then I can scroll through all of my stitches. I can even scroll left and right across the tabs on the top of the stitches. If I go into character decorative stitch, I can still scroll through all of the tabs of decorative stitches. Take a look at all those stitches. Now, I'm going to touch folder number 8. And I know there's an awesome sewing stitch. That one's one of my favorites. I want to show you what this looks like on the fabric, and we can actually audition that using the projection feature of the machine. All I have to do is touch the projection icon, and there it is. You can actually see the stitch projected onto the fabric. With the dual purpose stylus, I can lengthen my stitch and I can widen my stitch just with the click of a button. I can also audition stitches with the projector. So I touch my stitches icon, then I have multiple rows of stitches that are projected onto the fabric. I can arrow left and right to scroll through them. And when I find the stitch that I like, I just touch set. I can make any changes to that stitch, and then I'm off to sewing. Now, the buttonhole features of this machine are quite amazing. So I have a button here in my hand. I'm going to get ready to sew a button. So I'm going to touch utility stitch. I'm going to touch my buttonhole folder, select the buttonhole stitch that I want. And one of the new features of the machine is that I can actually adjust the size of my buttonhole using the button. So I'll place the button on the screen, and at the bottom I can change the buttonhole slit length. So I can elongate or shorten my buttonhole using the button right on the screen. This is very helpful because now we're able to sew larger buttons onto your garments or onto your projects, whatever you have. We used to have in embroidery mode the large buttonholes. Well, we still have that feature on this machine, but you can achieve the larger buttons in sewing mode. So now let's talk about the embroidery features of the machine. So in embroidery, we have these amazing exclusive designs. I'm going to scroll through, and I just really like the gecko. The gecko is quite amazing. So one of the new things with the machine is the hoop size. The hoop size is now 10 5/8 by 16 inches. You're 10 5/8 wide by 16 inches long. That's your sewing field. That's huge. We still are able to slide our hoops on with ease like we could on the Destiny 2. We have one more feature that's really awesome. In embroidery, we have the projector. I can now project my design right onto my fabric. So if I were sewing this design onto a pocket or a specific place on a fabric, I could see exactly where the design was going to stitch out. Now if we return and go back to our edit screen, we have a new feature, and it's called the Echo feature. So in the Destiny 2, we had auto stipple. Now we have auto stipple and auto echo. To access that, we touch our stipple icon, and I'm going to choose the stipple, and the machine will think, and it's digitizing those echoes. Look at that cool echo. You could create some really awesome designs. I can also change the spacing of my echo stitches, as well as the distance from the design that the echo is. And then I just touch embroidery, and I'm ready to stitch. So now we're to one of the most awesome features of the machine, and that's IQ Designer. That's where my love comes in for this machine. So in IQ Designer, they've slimlined the icons in IQ Designer. They've moved some of the icons around to where I think they make a lot of sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a standard shape. Now I want to fill in around the shape. So in the Destiny 2, you had fill, stipple, and you had your quilting fills. In the Solaris, you have 15 new quilting fills. That's a total of 30 fills. So let's take a look at some of those. You can scroll through. I love being able to scroll because we're used to scrolling with our phones and panning with our fingers. We can all do that with this screen. So I'm going to scroll. I like the circles because I'm going to show you something really cool. I'm going to leave the color red so that you can see the shapes on the screen. I'm going to touch my paint bucket and fill in the area around my shape. I'm going to touch next. and I'm going to touch my random shift icon. Now I'm going to increase the size up to 3 and touch OK, and the machine's going to think, and I want you to watch what it's going to do. It just took my circles and turned those into pebbles. So now what you can do is, if you have a quilt that you want to quilt, and maybe you're not good at free motion quilting enough to do the pebbles the way that you'd like for them to turn out, you can actually hoop your quilt, scan the hoop, and then apply these pebbles to any area that you want and quilt your quilt that way. That's pretty awesome. One other thing that we can do that we didn't do once before is we can return and we can apply new line properties to our shape. So I'm going to touch my line properties menu. We have our satin, our double line, our triple, our candle wicking stitch, our chain stitch. Now we have cool applique stitches. We've wanted that for so long, now we have it. We also have 10 new line properties. This is awesome in the fact that we wanted these, and now we can do cool appliques. So I'm going to choose this line property because I know that it's going to create some really cool stuff. I applied my line property to my line. And in this screen, I can now arrow over to where I have my line property highlighted. You can see that our design is going towards the inside of the shape. Well, I really want it to go to the outside. Well, now you can do that. I touched OK. Now the machine's going to think, and it just turned that design to the outside of the shape. Now that's really cool because now I can actually change the spacing of my design as well as the length or the width of my stitch. So with that being said, you can actually create your own stitches. So if I had a satin stitch and I made it a certain width, I could then take this stitch and make it a certain width and layer it on top. Now once I'm ready to embroider, I just touch set. The machine gives me one notification. I tell it OK. Now we are in embroidery mode and we are ready to embroider. So these are just some of the features of this awesome machine. I just scratched the surface. So if you want more information, you can of course go to babylock.com or call or come into a local Meissner location. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy sewing. Oh, I forgot to show you the accessory box. This is amazing. So now the lid is attached to the box and you have all of your accessories. Not one, not two, but 3 of the accessory feet trays here. All of my other accessories are in the box. There's a spot for the buttonhole foot. There's even a place for the digital dual feed foot. So now, whenever you're traveling with this machine, if you're going to class or what have you, everything is right here in one place, and it all goes back very nicely. And oops, I drop one. None of my feet come out. Isn't that amazing? Everything's in one place.